segment in Malaysia is one of the most hotly contested segments. Of course, not as hot as the sedan segment, but in terms of luxury SUVs, seriously, they have some really cool contenders. Cars like the Porsche Cayenne, cars like the BMW X6, cars like the Mercedes-Benz GLE 450. Honestly, one of the nicest cars I've driven in recent times. Tell you why in this video. Hello and welcome to Piston.my. I'm Kashi Dylan, and in this video I want to tell you everything there is to know and just a bit to not so like about the new GLE 450 AMG. Let's start with the exterior. Let's keep in mind that when Mercedes-Benz first introduced the GLE 450, it was a CBU unit and it costed about, I think about nearly 600 plus over 1,000, and that too came with an AMG kit. This one though is a CKD variant. CKD variant that costs 110,000 ringgit cheaper than the CBU unit, and it still has that AMG kit. It doesn't have the 22-inch wheels that the CBU unit had, but this one's are 21-inch and they look amazing. The entire front of the car is obviously all AMG. Hell, it even has the power bulges. The power bulges are AMG specific, so that is fantastic, I tell you. Such an amazing looking car. All in all, seriously, if you can't already tell, I'm in love with this car. Let's go to the back. Check out the size. Such a big, imposing machine, and I absolutely love it. So even from the back, seriously, this is one of the best designed Mercedes-Benzes of all time. I'll even say that. Yeah. Of course, there are some classics with the, beautiful curves and such. But this though is equally as gorgeous, I think. Fantastic amount of space over here. There's the boot, powered of course, and it has this very special feature. There are 3 buttons over here, and it has a very special feature where if you push this, it will drop the back of the car. So the idea over here is if you're carrying heavy groceries, something of that sort, and you're carrying something heavy from IKEA, for example, you can lower the back of the car so that it's easier for you to mount stuff. You don't even have to worry about scratching anything because there are scratch plates over here, fully protected. And then there are more buttons to play around with as well. If I press this button over here, it will drop the right hand side seat over there. And if I press the left hand side button, it does the same. There's also an auxiliary power unit over here as well, in case you want to plug in something like a mobile fridge or what. This car is a 7-seater. The 2 seats are tucked away neatly over here. So these are manually operated, so you need to pick them up yourself. Check out the amount of space in here. You could literally do anything in here. I'm not suggesting anything, but you could let your imagination run wild. So, electronically down, electronically up. Fantastic, isn't it? Now let's go check out the back seat. This is also one of the reasons why I really love this car, the GLE 450. Amount of space back here. And if it's still not enough, you can actually recline your seat, push it forward or backward, because each seat has its own individual controls. Brilliant! There are also 2 Type-C chargers over here, and you get individual aircon controls. So that means you can set your temperature for each passenger. If too hot, if your passenger is feeling too hot, can increase the temperature for him or her. So everything is passenger centric, human centric, and brilliant. From the driver's seat is where things get a lot better. Seriously, this is one of the nicer places, nicest interiors for a premium SUV. These holders over here remind me of the Porsche Cayenne, but they're there for a reason. As I found out yesterday coming from Ipoh, you could easily use it as a handrest, or your passenger can hold on to it for his or her dear life when you're pushing the engine, or when you're pushing the car actually. The steering wheel, I really like this generation of steering wheels for Mercedes-Benzes. I don't quite like the current generation steering wheels because everything there is one huge touchpad over here. And because I have sweaty palms, nothing works, especially when they're sweating away. So you have to dry your hands, then only touch. So everything to do with the volume or answering phone calls, everything is touchpad. Doesn't do it for me. I still prefer this analog type dials over here, these buttons. These are mini touchpads. So this one over here controls that, and this one over here controls this part of the screen. Fantastic. And I really love the aluminium inserts. The new generation ones have, especially on the E200 and the E300 too, I think, I can't remember, but the ones over here, they're in piano black. So I have a huge issue with piano black anything, because it highlights dust, it highlights fingerprints, but not with this. Over here is one mega screen. This is typical and available in almost all Mercedes-Benzes, new generation Mercedes-Benzes. This is 24.6 inches. So it's divided into two. This part here is touch sensitive. You can access everything about the car, your music, phone calls, navigation, everything is accessible over here, right? So this is touch sensitive. Oh, you could even change the themes. Look. So this gives you access to cameras all around. How do I exit this? So exit this, and this trip, so it gives me information about navigation and such. And I'm not sure why Mercedes calls this themes though. It should be features. So this is all the information available about the car, such as engine output, engine torque, fuel consumption, off-road score. There's an off-road score, so you can play games with this car. And then this part over here is your typical information that's required, such as speedometer, RPM meter, your amount of your range, your speedometer again in digital, your fuel consumption, everything. So everything is accessible by this touchpad over here. And you can also change it. So earlier was Sport. I can change it to Classic. So then you can change it to, this is one of my favorites, understated, because it's just basically nothing there. Your speedometer, your clock, and basically that's it. Because sometimes you're just tired of so much information. You're always on your computer, you're always on your phone, and that just overloads you with information. You don't want another screen overloading you with information. So this is great. I really like this. But I'm going to change it for the sake. There you go. Quality is no issue. It's such an amazing place to be in, right? And again, there is one thing that I need to show you, but before that, let me just tell you about this button over here, this big circular thing. This actually adjusts the suspension of the car, so you can lower your GLE or you can increase the ride height of your GLE if you're going off-roading and such. This one over here, this is your basically drive mode selector, you press this and it gives you different drive modes. Each controls the amount of power output and how the power is delivered, how the steering wheel feels, how the accelerator feels, and basically how sensitive the car is to your input, the inputs of your right foot. Now, this is the touchpad over here. This touchpad basically also controls this, which is fine. It's also great. It looks good as well. But let me show you this. This is the charging cable for my iPhone. Yeah, watch this. So, why does this happen? Because all charging cables, in fact almost all cables, have a very minor electrostatic charge, similar to what we humans have at our fingertips. And that's what sharks detect right before they figure out whether they're going to eat you or not. So I've been watching quite a bit of Shark Week actually. So this is actually not helpful. And so yesterday when I was coming back from Ipoh, I had my phone charging at the side there, and when my phone was charging there, look at how the cable is just sprawled out that way. So along the way, it was just constantly irritating me by so you kind of give up. Oh, there you go. So this is a bit of it's not a deal breaker, but it's a bit annoying lah. And the thing is, you can only access your Apple CarPlay, your Android Auto, if you plug it into this Type-C charger, this Type-C slot on the left-hand side over here. It's not going to work if you slot it onto the right. Neither is it going to work if you slot it into this Type-C charger over here. This Type-C slot, I mean. So, Mercedes-Benz, perhaps it's easier if you make all Type-C slots accessible to Apple CarPlay, or rather Apple CarPlay accessible via all Type-C slots. If you're worried about overlapping phones and such, perhaps just make it this one lah, so that it doesn't mess with the touchpad. So that's a bit irritating lah. Other than that, no issues at all. But this is not the only type chargepad or touchpad that has this problem. Earlier this year, I drove the Lexus RX 300 I think, and even that has a touchpad similar to this, and even that had the same problem. So basically, these touchpads work via your electrostatic charge at your fingertips. So a bit irritating lah. Okay, done with that. There's one massive speaker up front here, and there's Burmester audio system. I think there are 12 or 18 speakers in here, and they sound fantastic. I tell you, Metallica's S&M never sounded so good, honestly. But that aside, everything inside here is just spot on. Check out the size of this panoramic roof. It's mega. It's a huge panoramic roof. So the CKD variant didn't lose out on much. It just lost out on some safety features, but of course you still get the same amount of airbags, same amount of electronic controls and such. What it did lose out though is the seats. It's no longer Alcantara seats. I can't remember exact. I think it's Article on the sides here and fabric in the middle. I can't remember what this fabric is called, but they're still fantastic seats. Talking about the seats, I want to show you something. So I go under comfort, I go under seat kinetics, and if I press play over here, what this is going to do is that every few seconds it will adjust something about the seat. So perhaps it will just cup you tighter or let you go a bit. Your thigh support might go back higher or lower. Your backrest might just go back just a bit or come forward just a bit. What this does is it keeps you alert. It suddenly moves you, you're like, oh, what just happened? So it keeps you alert while you're driving, especially during long distances. And it also stops your body from going numb. If you're sitting in one position for too long, it just becomes irritating, and that's why you have to stop, take a break and such. But not with this seat kinetics function. So what this does is just minor adjustments every couple of seconds just to keep you fresh, keep you alert. That's great. I really appreciate that. It's getting a bit hot. Let's close this. And let's go check out the engine. This is the Mercedes-Benz 3-litre V6 turbocharged engine. It's been a while since there has been a 6-cylinder engine in the market, except for those AMGs and bigger engines from Porsche and like the V6s, V8s. But Mercedes-Benz though, it's a brilliant engine, I tell you. It produces about 367 horsepower, about 500 Newton meters of torque. It's a bit thirsty, I have to put it out right now. It's a little bit on the thirstier side, but fuel consumption is of course always subjective. It depends on how heavy your right foot is and such. But as it is, it actually even sounds great. But I think the sound is pumped into the cabin via the speakers because it sounds so good. But all in all, yes, it's a bit thirsty, but power output, fantastic. 0 to 100 in about 5.7 seconds, I think, for such a heavy, big, heavy machine. So this may not be a full-bred AMG, but it's not low on performance either. So all in all, the new Mercedes-Benz GLE 450 is seriously one of the nicer cars in the market right now. The BMW X6 is also quite good, but that's a hybrid. And we know how Malaysians don't quite like their hybrids. Those cars are really selling well as well. I haven't driven one, so I can't say much. But if you, like me, have a bit sketchy towards hybrids, this is the car you want. Because this, thank you Mercedes for not making this a hybrid. So that's it. And also in this price range, you might be able to look at cars like the Porsche Macan or even the second-hand Porsche Cayenne, which are great cars also, by the way. But every new Mercedes-Benz comes with a 4-year warranty, 4-year free maintenance too, I think. Making this a damn good buy in the market right now. Thank you for watching. If you like what you see here today, do consider subscribing to our channel. I'm Kashi Dylan.